You.
Click on comments.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Tina Hogan Grant here from my regular Cuppa A Natter. I'm here every other Monday, and I like to invite authors into my home. And we talk about anything that comes to mind, books, writing, life as an author. And tonight I have Jill Hannah Anderson, who's joining me tonight. So how are you doing, Jill?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Tina. And congratulations on your new book release last week for number 3 in the series.
Thank you. It was a long time coming. That is the final book in the trilogy. So It kind of feels nice to have a trilogy complete.
Yes.
1, 2, and 3, all done. So there's a really good feeling. I'm excited that it's out, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But I was looking at your page on Amazon, and the book that I think is your latest, correct me if I'm wrong, is Crazy Little Town Called Love?
Yes. That was my second book.
Okay, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I do want to say hi to a few people, and then I want you to give us a little big background to Jill and let us know what Jill likes to do, where she lives, blah, 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 blah. But B is here. Hello, B. Good to see you. Are you seeing them? You seeing the people?
Yes, I am.
Karen is here. And I'm seeing a few Facebook users. And I do want to tell the people what I'm seeing Facebook users. You're probably watching it from my group, which is private. So what you need to do, you need to go to the top of the video. And up there is a link that it says, give StreamYard permission to see your name. That's why you're coming up as a Facebook user, because you're watching it from my private group. And you only have to do it once. Once you've done it, then you don't have to do it for every other stream. But I did want to put that out there. Virgie is here. Denise is here. Hey, Denise, how are you? Good to see you, ladies. I'm here with Jill Hannah. We're going to talk about her books tonight. Teresa says hello. I can stay till 5:30. She has a Zoom. Okay, Jill. So let's get a little background to Jill and what she does for hobbies when she's not writing or reading, and where you're from, your family life,
Okay. Well, my dad was in the Air Force, so I was just, for everybody else, I was just telling Tina that I actually was born in California when he was in the service. And my parents settled in Minnesota, and so I've lived in Minnesota most of my life. We moved here when I was in 2nd grade. And I live in central Minnesota, and on a lake, very fortunate to be on a lake. And in the fall and winter here, my favorite thing to do is the sport of curling, where you slide the rock, you're on the ice. I love it. That's what gets me through the winter. And otherwise, I'm a runner. I didn't start running till I turned 45, and that was 16 years ago.
Wow. I used to run in school, but not in my older years.
Yeah, I'm a late bloomer in that, and my writing and everything. So running, biking in the summer, gardening. We have 16 grandkids and 6 kids. So in the summer, we try to do a cousins camp with our grandkids. Now, we couldn't do it last summer, but we're really hoping we can this summer due to COVID.
Right.
So yeah, when we're not isolated, I spend a lot of time with our family when I can.
So they must be all close by. They're all close by? Your family is close by?
We're all in Minnesota, except for one family lives in Montana. But they're all, an hour to 3 hours away from us.
That's nice. 16 grandkids. What is the age range? The age range?
The youngest is 1. Let's see if I can do this.
Sure.
Backwards. See those?
Oh, I see it. Yep.
They're all up there except for the youngest. So they're from age 1 on up. We think they're done.
How do you keep track of birthdays?
It's pretty handy. 2 of them just had birthdays on Valentine's Day. 2 different families, but yeah. Anyway, and I retired from my day job 2 years ago, and I was always very organized and, bump up on, especially when I was writing, because that's a full-time job. And my first 2 books came out when I was still working. And boy, have I slacked off since then. People ask me what's taken so long on my third book. And
Even with COVID and a lockdown, you've actually slowed down?
well, it's gotten better thanks to
Mhm.
COVID, because what was happening is I was having fun. I was going out and doing things. So
Right.
now with COVID, I finished my third book, signed my publishing contract for that, and I just am about done with my first draft of my fourth book.
Well,
So
congratulations.
I'm being productive now.
There you go. I mean, it does take discipline when, I find that I tend to write more, I'm more productive late at night. During the day, there's just too many distractions for me.
Hmm.
And, and it's not necessarily I want to go do something. It's just if I'm in my house or in my office, I know that there's laundry to be done, there's dishes to be done, I need to go to the store. But at night, when the house is quiet and everyone's resting, that's when I'm productive.
Hmm.
And my writing will usually start at 10 o'clock at night. And
Yeah.
then I'll write till probably, I mean, I'm a night owl,
Hmm.
and I'll write till 1 or 2, and then I'll go to bed and get up at 6. I only need like 4 hours of sleep. Right now, I'm getting by with 4 hours.
Wow. I need more than that. Well,
Right now, it's working for me. I tried the morning sessions of writing at 5 a.m. I did that for, I think it lasted like 2 months.
Hmm.
I was up every day at 5 o'clock, but the problem was that I still like my nights.
Yes.
So it was like I was burning the candle at both ends. So it's like, okay, this isn't working. I need 5 cups of coffee before I can even type a word. Now it's 7 o'clock. So I gave up on the morning sessions. What's working right now is the night. So I'm sticking to that.
Yeah. And I used to be a night writer only because I didn't have a choice,
Because you
Um,
could.
but now I have found I'm more productive in the morning.
Okay. There you go.
So,
And I actually had, because I was reading through your bio, I had a question mark next to curling because I've never heard of curling.
what
So
do you,
what is it exactly? You say it's on the ice, but is it ice skating? What is it?
no,
No,
no, it's funny because when there's a team from Minnesota that got the bronze in the Olympics for curling several years ago. And I made fun of the sport. I thought it looked so stupid. It looked like shuffleboard on ice. And I remember telling my husband, I can't believe that's an Olympic sport. Like, seriously?
I have never heard of it.
Yeah. So then shortly after that, they opened a club not too far from us. And he's the one that convinced me to go and try it. And I instantly fell in love. And it's not only the sport, but it's the people.
Okay.
Curlers are fun people. Like if I go, we've gone snowshoeing, we go biking. They're people that like to be active. Uh,
So let me ask, is it a competitive sport? You're like on a team?
oh yes, yep. You're on a team of 4, and last year, gosh, I don't.
I'm gonna be looking this up after our chat, but go ahead.
Yeah, last March, the weekend before shutdown, they have a state, Gopher State women's tournament, curling tournament every year. It was the 51st, I think. And I was lucky enough to be on a team that we won. I mean, we won the whole state. And
The whole state?
yeah, the following Monday was a shutdown. And I haven't curled since. Well, we
Okay.
had an outdoor one. But anyway, yeah, you have to look it up. It doesn't look
I
as
will, because
as it.
I'm just intrigued by it. But because I mean, I like sports. I like to be outdoors. I'm active as much as I can be, and I've never come across curling. When before COVID, how often did you do curling?
Uh, they have it every day,
Okay,
or every night. I played twice a week. I was
twice
on
a
2
week.
different
And
teams.
you say you're on a lake, so do you kayak too? Because that's one of my things is kayak.
Yeah, I have a stand-up board, so I
Okay.
do that instead. We don't have a kayak. We should get some because
Oh,
the
you really should, especially with 16 grandkids. Oh my God.
we're on the pontoon a lot.
I'm
On the
sorry.
pontoon a lot.
I'm sorry. What was that?
The pontoon, we're out on the
Oh, okay,
pontoon.
that's fun. Those
Yeah.
are fun. Yeah, those are fun. Okay, let me see who else is here. Then we're going to start talking about your books. I like to just let the readers know that we know they're here. And if you have any questions for Jill, please put them in the comments or be sure to ask. I just want to say Peggy is here. Okay, Peggy's asking. Here we go. I'm going to put it up. Were you really curling? Oh, she knows curling. So she said it's a neat sport. See, I'd never heard of it.
Well, in California, it's not a big sport.
I guess not. Jill, Facebook user, she didn't click on the link, said she can hear your accent. I was going to ask you about your accent because you said you were born in California, but you do have an accent. So
right. I've lived in Minnesota since I was 7.
So I guess they have I've never been to Minnesota, so I guess Minnesota.
we roll our O's apparently.
Okay, because I've never met talking to a Minnesotian. Is that what we call you? A Minnesota?
Probably. Yep. We have a Midwest accent. I saw somebody right here somewhere, but I think they're showing up as a Facebook user that they like to fish in Walker, Minnesota. And we're about an hour from Walker, whoever that is.
Okay, I know who's that. This one's Ruth. She hasn't clicked on the link, but I know she lives in Peculiar. So that's Ruth. Ruth, you need to click on the link at the top so I can see your name. But I do know where you live. She's the only one I know that lives in Peculiar. But you said someone in, what was it?
They're just showing up as a Facebook user, and they said that they like to fish in Walker, Minnesota.
And do you know that place?
Yeah, it's just an hour from where I live.
Oh wow, small world. I love to fish. I was a commercial fisherwoman. Well, you did my books. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to talk about your books. Like I said, if you have any questions for Jill, leave them in the comments. Okay, here's a question for you before we get started. From B, I like the titles. Do you plot the book based off the title or come up with the title during the writing process?
Good question.
Very good.
So my first book, the To Hell and Back Club, I actually initially called it Somebody to Lean On. And I'm in a writers group, amazing writers group. It's called Women's Fiction Writers Association. And I'd be lost without them.
Really?
Anyway, when I was working on this book, we would be in this email group, and I had asked, that's kind of a bland title for a name, but I had this Hell Club, this group of the To Hell and Back Club women that the main character joins. Anyway, one of the other writers in the WFWA book said, well, why don't you just call your book the To Hell and Back Club then? That's so unique. I'm like, oh, never thought of calling it. So that's what I did. I had come up with the title or the name of the club, but I hadn't thought of actually naming the book that. And she suggested, why not call it that instead?
That was your debut novel, correct?
Yes. Yep. And then the second book, I did not have a title for until, for anybody that's read it, it was, how when you're drafting the book, the first couple of drafts, you just are telling yourself the story. And I don't know if I was in my first or second draft, but I really didn't know. The main character is Molly O'Brien, and she's got to figure out a way to support herself. And it wasn't until I was brainstorming how it was going to work for her with this store, how she was going to solve that problem to support herself, that the idea came up with inspired me to rename the town Love and make that the title. As soon as I came up with her solution to her problem of supporting herself in the store, and I don't want to give it away because it's kind of a twist later on in the story, then that's when I went and I don't even know what I had named the town before, but whatever I had it named, I changed the town to be called Love, and then that's when I came up with the title.
And this is the second book?
That's the second book.
Do you have one of your books handy to hold up?
I have them both handy.
So let's see your books, huh?
So this is oops, I forget it backwards. This is Crazy Little Town Called Love.
Okay.
And, it's interesting when I read your thing today, Tina, where you were saying that you got to meet the gal on your book cover.
Yes. Well, I didn't meet her in person, just so.
No, but online, yeah. So one of the things back when we could have book events in person, I've had so many people ask if that's me on the cover.
I see that.
which it isn't. In my author photo, I have my hair curled, so I can see why they thought this was
Right.
cute. But it's just the publisher. I had told them what I wanted. I wanted a woman looking out over a lake
Mm-hmm.
that had long, dark, wavy hair, because that's what Molly has in the story, and that's what they came up with. And then I was going to show this to the readers here. One of the things that I do when I'm plotting out a book is I have in my head what I think the characters are going to look like and how they look to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what I do is I go online and I find pictures.
There you go.
And now this guy, Ernie, he's a real person. So, I mean, he wasn't an actor or actress. He's somebody that I knew that lived in this town that I came to know and love, and he ended up in my second book because he passed away while I was writing it. Anyway.
That's cool, because it's funny because I'm doing takeovers in the past 2 weeks, and I've got like 4 left, but I've been going to each takeover and having the readers cast the like wannabe movie for the Tammy Mellows series, and I have like 6 actresses for each day, like for each character, and they get to pick, and then the winner will be that cast. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. I've been doing that too, and I'm going to put it up on Pinterest probably.
Yeah, it's a way for me to, I mean, obviously these are black and white, but I have the colored ones on my computer. Just a way for me to remember, oh, he has brown eyes, or
it's nice to have a visual. It is nice, and it really does help. I have a notepad because are your books standalone?
Yeah. The publisher for the first 2 books promoted them as a series, but really this book takes place before the other one, and they're completely, like, I know a lot of people that just have only read this book. There's main characters in both of them, but totally standalone stories. Like one story doesn't have anything to do with the other one other than they're similar characters in like 2 or 3 characters.
It's not like the same character in each book. It's completely different.
Okay, how it is Molly is introduced in the Hell Club.
Okay.
But this is her story, so it has nothing to do with Peyton from the first book story. So they're both in the Hell Club.
Standalone. Yeah, because I write a series, but I also write them so a standalone.
Yeah.
But with the visual that we were talking about, what I have to do is have a notepad. In fact, I have little note cards. And each note card is a character. Like Sabella will get her own card, Slater will get his own card, or whatever the character is. And I'm writing the habits of each character, or the color of the eyes, the color of the hair, an event that happened in book 1, how old he was. So when I'm in book 4, I'm like, okay, now when did that happen to Slater? I can pick up the card and go, oh, okay, he was this age. So that's kind of how I do it when I write a series. I have to have some reference. Otherwise, I have to read the whole book again.
Right. Well, and that's so when I was writing my second book, which, like I said, takes place before the first book, I had to kind of backtrack, look at the first book, because I hadn't written this yet when I got that book deal, other than I had an idea of what it was going to be about. But the same thing, then I had to go back and look at the first book. Okay, this happened in this year, so now I've got to backdate this, because this is Molly's story and what drives her to join the Hell Club.
Okay.
In the beginning of that book.
Are your books based on any person you know, or any event that you've experienced, like based on true events or someone you know?
Yes. So for this book, what happens is, I was going to hold this, but they can go online and read the synopsis on the back.
Oh, I'm going to read it. Don't worry. I'll read it.
Oh, okay. So she inherits this little old general store in the town called Love. And for 12 years, we owned a little general store that was attached to a house, kind of like what she.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, I mean, right down to where we sold bait and I had to scoop minnows and.
The gooey stuff.
Yeah. So this was a very easy book for me to write because I lived
the experience.
that part of it. not all of the subplots, but that's where the idea for that came in.
Okay. And
the first book was based on my best friend. She had had leukemia right around the time she turned 30, and then didn't think she'd make it. And she pulled through for many years. Anyway, there was 4 of us girls that would go on trips together and just do a lot together. And when her leukemia came back, and I knew that we were probably going to lose her, I remember laying in bed one night and thinking to myself, what would I do if I lost all 3 of them?
Mm-hmm.
And I have other friends that I do stuff with, but those were the girls that if I was going to go on a trip like out east or something, we'd done that twice. Anyway, so that's where the idea for my first book came.
Okay.
Because, and I'm not really giving a secret away here, it happens in the first chapter. She is supposed to go to this craft fair with her 3 best friends, and she ends up staying back and driving separately because she has to deliver football spikes to her son. And she comes across an accident, and it's her 3 best friends, and they die.
This happens in the beginning of the book, so.
Yep, first chapter. So for those of you who read
that, you'd say it.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of women. I've had unbelievable feedback from that book because a lot of women have thought that the Hell Club was a real club. Like, I have gotten emails and messages from women all over where they can join.
Oh, wow.
Because it's an awesome club. I mean, there should be, they have fun events and they lift each other up, and the only reason those women are in there is because they've gone through something horrible, and they're there to support each other. So that's how Peyton, the main character in the story, ends up coming across these women in the To Hell and Back Club, because she's lost her 3 best friends. She's going through a divorce. Her family lives in Texas and she's in Minnesota. I had to make sure any other possible support system was gone for her, so that she'd have to rely on them. So that's where that came about. And then my third book that I just signed for, should be out next year. That's called After Perfect. So much shorter title, 2 words this time. And that is also, in a sense, based on my best friend that died, because I remember when her cancer came back, and even before that, she had a lot of other health issues that you couldn't see, that weren't visible. And so this Lily in my third book has a perfect life until she's attacked in the opening chapter, when she's out running and her life spirals. And then she realizes through several different people that we all have invisible wounds. And that was something that I tried to learn through my friend that died, because when her cancer came back, she said, I wish I had, if I had a broken leg and I was in a wheelchair, people would feel sorry for me and they'd want to help me. But when she had these other emotional or physical wounds that people couldn't see, they didn't understand.
The invisible, yeah.
So that's kind of the third story.
Wow.
And then now I am almost done with the first draft of my 4th book. Wow. Again, all standalones, but
all standalones, and a lot of them are based on real life people or events.
Well, now this 4th one, I'm going to really be relying on my husband and other people around here. It's more, it's a woman that ends up in a small town that has lived off the land. She traps leeches for a living. I mean, I have a friend down the road we used to call her the leech lady. But yet she's an accountant. She can do everything. She goes out and cuts wood. And I live in an area where people can easily live off the land, and they know everything about everything. I mean, if there's going to be an Armageddon, you should be here. So that's kind of what the 4th book is about. This
And
get
that will
over it.
be out. Well, you're not even got the third one out yet, but you're done with the fourth one already?
No, just the first draft. I mean, the first of like 100 drafts. So
100 drafts?
well,
Good Lord.
I hope not 100, but you know, several drafts. It takes me several drafts
It
to.
takes me about two or three, I think.
Oh,
I'm finding, I mean, of course, with the Tammy Mello series, I lived the life.
yes,
So I didn't have to make too many changes because I knew exactly where the book was going.
yes.
But with the other series, yeah, it takes me a few. And what a long message here. I want to post you to read from Peggy, just in case you haven't seen it. It's right here. I'll let you read that. So sorry about your girlfriend. I don't know where she's coming from. Breast cancer. Even though Cohen and the foundation wouldn't help me, I had to help with it.
Yes.
It's a silent disease. It is, and I had cancer. It's a life-changing illness, disease,
Yep.
illness. It is.
And you know, I thought that's one of the things, and I talked to her sisters about it still, because I told them that I'm dedicating the third book to her. And I have this guilt that I couldn't put myself where she was. We all tried to help. Anyway, it's hard to understand. And she had so many, I mean, it was 10 different things. So I felt like I was understanding, but I wasn't.
No.
And it, you know, wasn't until it was too late. There's a quote. Oh, where do I have it here? And you'd have to all be of a certain age, because this song came out in 1970. It's called "Walk a Mile in My Shoes." It's by Joe South, and so this is the
I remember that song. I think I know. I mean, I was born in '63, so I'm sure I've heard this song.
Yeah, you know, it's popular for a long time. It's "Walk a mile in my shoes before you abuse, criticize, or accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes," and that's what I want to have.
I love
in After Perfect, because it isn't even just the main character. There's two other characters that appear like their life is just fine, and it isn't fine.
No.
Anyway,
You get a lot of
downer books, but they really aren't.
I know. But this is what happens when you chat about your books and we want to learn the backstory of the books. Yeah. Sometimes it's sad, but it gives the book more meaning. You know, when you hear the history, and especially when it comes from the author of why they wrote that book, when a reader picks it up and they remember the conversation, you know, I found this book, or I discovered this book on so and so, and I heard the backstory. When you read the book, you actually hear you talking about the backstory, and you know, sometimes it is sad, but her life will continue on in your work. Yeah, you know, which is fantastic.
I tried to have them be fun books. You know, so there's humor in all of them. It doesn't seem like there would be, but there is.
Well, you know, we gotta mix it up a little bit. But I do want to say hi to a few more people, and then I am going to read the back of the book, the description of the book from Amazon. Let me just see who's here real quick. Virgie Lane says, "I remember that song. I used to say that, walk a mile in my shoes." Yeah, yeah, I do remember it. Now I have it in my head. Thank you. Yeah. And then Emily, it is hard to understand something you haven't experienced yourself. It's very true. It's very true. There was one more I saw. I think we answered the question. She was asking, it was B. She was asking about your characters, who they're based on. So I do want to read, and this is the second book. I'm going to read the description. Give me 1 second. It was on my phone, but of course, my phone. Here we go. And the title is Crazy Little Town Called Love. Oh, this one was also, I was reading, a finalist in the International Book Awards. Is that correct?
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that. What an achievement. And that was your second book. All right, here we go. I'm going to go to, now this is available in paperback, Kindle, and I'm looking audio too. Do I see
no audio for the second?
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Here we go. The description. I have my glasses on. Give me 1 minute to focus here. Okay. Okay. Here we go. 32-year-old Molly's cushy life. Okay. Let me start over. All right. 32-year-old Molly's cushy life in Minneapolis tanks when her longtime boyfriend bails on her and their underwater mortgaged home. She needs a place to live and a new job, and the answer to both may be in a quaint town called Love, the town where her deceased mother grew up, a town where an old general store and home have been willed to Molly's family, a town with secrets and people with long memories. Can she trade her acrylic nails for pounding nails to revive a fixer-upper store? Molly is ready for a do-over and a chance to prove to herself that she can make it on her own. She puts elbow grease, heart, and half her savings into giving the old place a facelift. As her business grows, so does her relationship with Jackson, the owner of the hardware store, and great nephew to the woman who willed her business to Molly's family. The tourist town of Love brims with quirky townspeople and fun events, and it is at one of these events that Molly is first threatened. Apparently, not everyone is happy to have her in town. As threats against her escalate, Molly has to decide if she'd be better off leaving Love or staying to fight for the life she's created in the town that's stolen her heart. I like that. I'm intrigued.
There is some. Well, so after that book came out, boy, everybody in our small town was sure that I was talking about them. Because there's a lot of quirky, goofy characters. But the theme of it too, because I grew up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in the Twin Cities,
Right.
and I sure never pictured that I'd be living in a small town, which I've lived in now for over 30 years. But one of the things about it was that Molly doesn't. She thinks these people are nosy and they're, getting in her business, but they come to save her. They rally around her when things go bad, and she falls in love with these goofy, crazy people, and a heartthrob, of course. Oh, I gotta.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's Brad
With the glasses on? With the glasses?
Yeah, that's her heartthrob, Bradley Cooper.
Okay, Jackson.
So yeah, it was a fun book to write, and like I said, that was fairly easy book for me because I lived a lot of it. Not the plot twist, but what she uncovers is it's the town where her mom grew up, and
Right.
she uncovers all these family secrets about her mom, her grandpa, that nobody ever told her.
Right. Is the town Love based on the little town where you live? Is it based on that town?
It is a little bit, but where I live is full of small towns. And actually, when I was growing up, my parents had a cabin in a small town, a couple hours from here, and I loved the summers there. So I've been around so many small towns, and the people in them are no different than they are in a big city. You just get to know them better.
Yeah, you have a closer knit relationship. It's like where we live. It's a small town, but it doesn't take you long to do your errands. What takes the time is chit-chatting in the post office for an hour because everyone there
Right. And really where I grew up in the Twin Cities felt to me like a small town. It was just a big neighborhood and everything we had was there and we all knew each other. So they really aren't that different. It's just either everybody knows everybody's business or they think they know everybody.
They think they know. It's gossip. We call it gossip. But no, I love the description of the book. I'm intrigued very much.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to write that book?
Well, that one did not take that long because I was working on the first draft when I signed for my first book. And so they had asked about the second book and I said, yep, I have a draft. I must have had at least one draft because I knew what I wanted to call it then. But my first book came out in May 2017, and this came out in July 2018. So
Like
I
a year.
had less than a year to write it, and I was working full time.
Oh,
I was very crabby that year.
I can imagine.
Because when you were talking about writing late, and the weekends, I remember
going to work the next day, you're burning the candle both ends, and I tend to do that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
You know, I read in your bio on Amazon that, you know, you focus on writing books with strong female leads. Strong
Yes.
female.
Yep.
What do you, when a reader reads your book, what do you want them to take away after reading one of your books?
That we are all stronger than we think we are. I mean, I'm the only daughter. I have 3 brothers, and and I'm not that old. I mean, my parents had this, like, you get married and you stay home and you have children, because that's what my mom did.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need to go to college, just my brothers. I mean, just very, and I said, you know, it's my fault. I didn't argue. I didn't fight for anything. And well, like I said, I didn't start running till I was 45 because
Right.
for some reason I thought I couldn't, and ran a half marathon the next year. Same thing with my writing. I think we tell ourselves that we can't do something before we really even try. So in my books, every single one of them, I like I said, I write about strong women in tough situations. Every single one of the women are placed in a difficult situation, and they find their way out. They find their way out. They don't rely on a man to find their way out.
Right.
And that was when my husband, I was struggling with this first draft of my 4th book that I'm working on. I knew that the main character, this female, had to come head to head with the antagonist, and I couldn't figure out the scene to do it. And so I'm asking my husband, I'm telling him the whole situation, and everything he came up with was a man help, you know, like, oh, and I'm like, no, that cannot happen. She needs
To do
you
it.
know, but that's what I guess that's what I want my readers to take away, is that we are all capable of, I mean, not that you don't need help. I'm not saying, because definitely,
We all need help. We all need help.
yeah, we all need help. But in every book, the woman has, well, and the other thing too is relying on friends. Every single book has been how important friendship is. Like, I went through a divorce 20 some years ago, and for me, that's been the worst thing in my life. And I would never have gotten through it without my friends. And that was another guiding point in my first book. That's why I created the To Hell and Back Club, because I knew how important those relationships are for women to build each other up. So
we all need our support. We all need our support system. And as Raina's here. Hey, Raina, how are you? She writes this: we have to stand up for ourselves. I'm just reading some of the comments here.
Somebody had asked me earlier, and I can't find it now, but
if you remember the question, go ahead.
What character I would be.
What?
Sherry Brown asks, would you ever choose or want to be one of your characters for any length of time?
Oh, good question.
In a sense, I definitely feel like I was part of Lily in the second book, and part of Peyton in the first book, and part of Lily in there's pieces of me in all of them.
In each character.
Right. And heck, I would take Molly just because she ends up with
Jackson.
But you know, honestly, if I was going to live one of their lives, I would choose this Jolie, the main character that I'm writing in my 4th book, because she is one tough cookie that can literally live off the land. So if I was going to live,
Molly going to a small town and fixing up a little store, I like that idea.
Yeah, well, I already did that in real life, so
yeah, so you know,
I want to live that again. But if I was going to be one of them for any length of time, I would probably be the character in my 4th book.
All right. Now, your first book came out in 2018, correct?
17.
17. Have
Came.
you always been writing before you got published? Was it something, a passion of yours, or like me, did you start late? I started late.
I started late. I loved writing in high school, and for some reason, kind of like I was saying, we all shortchange our dreams, or at least I did. Obviously, not every woman, because there's so much success out there. But for me, and I had my kids young. I had my first child at 21, and we had the business that was open 7 days a week, and then I worked full time. And anyway, so I literally, when I was 45, 46 years old, it seems like everything changed for me then. And the reason everything changed was our youngest went off to college, and we had 3 in college, and my oldest was going to get married. And I worked full time, and I actually went to this place to get a part-time job, because we knew my husband was already working full time and part time. So I thought, well, I'll get another part-time job. And I had gone to see if they needed a hostess, and she talked me into bartending, which I had never done. I know how to open a beer, and that's about it. And
drink it.
Any drink that has 2 ingredients. So I ended up loving it. So I know that down the road, one of my characters is going to be a bartender, because I never thought I would enjoy it. And again, it was all due to my coworkers, who were very patient with me. But so that happened. I started bartending right before my youngest graduated from college. My oldest got married and started bartending, and was still working full time, and started writing for a Minnesota women's newspaper, all within 3 months. Oh, and ran my first half marathon.
Wow.
That was all from April 2006 to June 2006. But I really feel that that's what bartending gave me confidence, which sounds weird, but it did.
Bartending back in the 90s. I was a bartender in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I found I had to create an attitude. Is what I found.
Talk to the hand. But that time in my life was when, like I say, I felt like I got the confidence to try writing. So that was when I started writing for a women's magazine in Minnesota, and I wrote for them for 10 years, and I literally interviewed my last story the day I signed my first publishing contract.
Congratulations. Wow. It just all unfolded.
Yeah. Well, it's 10 years of writing for them, but
right.
So that, and by then I had this first book, that I've been working on my friend passed away in 2012, and I signed my contract in January of 2016. So I'd probably been working on it for 4 years off and on.
A few years, yeah. And you've had the same publisher for each book? It's the same
for the first 2. Now I just signed with a different publisher for my 3rd book.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't wait to read the first one, and get the other ones too. Do you have a writing ritual or schedule that you stick to every day, or you just write when you feel like it, or do you have to write every day?
I don't have to write every day. I'm not one of them. And now, that I'm retired, it's a lot more freedom. Before, it was, like I said,
ritual,
late at night. Sometimes early in the morning before I went to work, but normally late at night. So now it just depends on, you have a lot more flexibility now, obviously, because nobody's coming to visit us.
No.
We've been working on our house, painting, and
I know. I'm saying to myself, I bet there's so many spotless houses out there with fresh paint jobs and
yeah. I was going to show everybody quick the characters for my first book.
Oh, sure. I'd love to see them.
So yeah, there's the cover of the first book.
Okay, now I saw that one is on audio.
Yes, that one is on audio.
Okay.
And then, so let's see if I can go backwards here. So Peyton, oh, where is she? Peyton right here.
Okay, the blonde.
Yep, is the main character. And then these are the 3 images that I used for, these are her 3 friends that die in the car accident right away.
I love Julia Roberts, and I love, what's her name? Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah. So even though they die right away in the story, they are mentioned throughout the story. So,
right.
And then my 3rd book that I just signed for that will come out next year, After Perfect, this is the first time I have the woman already married. So I had to find when they're young, and then also when they're a little bit older, because they meet. The whole story takes place around 2011, 2012, but I do flashbacks to where they meet 20 years earlier.
And you don't have a cover for that yet, correct? There's no cover yet.
No cover. I haven't started
anyway. That'll be a nice surprise when you have it. I'm sure you have an idea of what you want the cover to be.
You know what? On this one, I have struggled. I envisioned that because she's attacked while she's running. So I envision a woman that, from the back, you can see her running.
Okay.
That's it. We'll see what the publisher wants.
Yeah, I want to see it now. And then you have a question here from Peggy. Does writing tire you out, or does it energize you?
I think that's why I can't write later in the afternoon now, because I will start writing in the morning, and especially when you're working on the early drafts and I'm coming up with the actual story now, and I can only write for a few hours and my brain is mush.
I can't write all day.
Not when I'm doing the first draft like this and really having to figure out what happens.
I'm happy if I write 1,000 words in a day. Yeah. I'm happy.
And that's what I do write a lot right now. But like I've had several days where I've been writing about 3,000.
Wow.
Because I want to get done. I know how I'm going to end the story. So as far as it being energizing or not, right now, more than a few hours is draining, because it's that initial draft where you're really thinking hard. Now, when I go back to do my edits for my 3rd book, everything from that point on, I feel energizes me, because you're not having to think quite so hard. But I love it. I mean, my favorite thing to do is write or read. Yeah. Pretty boring.
You curl too. You do curling.
Well, yeah, not this year, but yes.
I know I'm going to look that up tonight. Sometime tonight I'll be looking up curling. I'll let you know what I find. You're talking about how the book ends, the one you're working on now. So do you plot your books? You actually write it all out before you put pen to paper?
Every book that I have written so far, well, the 4, I guess there's only 4 of them, I have envisioned the beginning scene and the end scene. And I usually have a few ideas of what I think is going to happen in between. But I don't, beyond that, I just kind of start writing, because it often surprises me. The 3rd book, I was going along, I was about 50 pages in, and then I had to do a lot of research for After Perfect, the one that will be out next year, because she gets attacked. So I had medical research, legal research, law enforcement research, and I got stuck once I hit that, because it just was so overwhelming, and plus I had to meet with all these people. So I ended up not writing anything for a while. And then I talked to a different author friend, and she said, well, do you know anything that happens after that? And I said, yeah, but I can't get past this. And she goes, well, just go write the other scenes. So that did help me, and I literally did that. I jumped ahead, towards the end, because I knew how I wanted the end to be. And not that the beginning and end, I would say every beginning so far has not changed for me. The end changed somewhat on my 1st book, but not Not a lot. I just moved the end scene up a little further and added something after it. But
do you find a lot of surprises when you're writing that you weren't expecting?
yes, and I also fall in love with these characters that hadn't even started out in my head. All of a sudden they show up, and
Where'd you come from?
yeah, they end up like in my first book. I fell in love with Peyton's sister Grace, who lives in Texas. She's sassy and kind of trying to guide Peyton, and I loved her, and she didn't even start out being in the book. Second,
when I'm writing is that I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but for me, I mean, I have the characters in my head that are going to be in the book, and as I'm writing, the characters develop. I mean, the personalities develop, and I really like how you get to know these characters, as if I'm talking to you, like I'm talking to you. I could sit down and talk to Jill, whoever's in my book, just like I know her, and I know what she likes to eat. I know what she likes to drink. And, chapter 1, I had no idea about this person. So it's actually like you're sitting down and meeting someone for the first time. And I just love how it evolves by the end of the book. Like, oh, okay.
and I always feel like you're a little crazy to
say
that these characters show up. But what do you mean they show up? I don't know. They just do.
Or a character would do something that you had no plans for it to happen in the book.
Yeah, I know.
That the character would do. And yep. I just let that character take over. Okay, you want to do this? Do it. Let me know how it ends.
And I think it's weird because you think about it. Well, the character is coming from your brain. Why do you all of a sudden like there's a detective that shows up in my third book. I just loved him, and he was not supposed to be in there to begin with. And he's probably my favorite character in the third book. And you think, well, you're the one that created that character. Didn't you have any better control than that? Like, why didn't you make the main character your favorite character?
Right.
That's not the personality.
Yeah, it all depends on the personality and where the story, where it's going.
Right.
For them to I say strike a conversation with you or your attention, however you want to put it. Raina has a question here. Do you have your title before you start writing or figure it as you go along? I think you changed one title. We talked about that one earlier. But is it the same for every book?
So the third book, After Perfect, I knew that title right away too. Pretty much because when you ask before I start writing, I actually am thinking of that book for a long time before I start writing anything. Like this fourth book that I started for NaNoWriMo in November, I probably thought about it all summer long.
Yeah.
And didn't write a single word. So
but it was in our head.
Yeah, before I actually start writing it, by then I kind of know my characters, have an idea for the beginning, have an idea for the end. So yes, that I usually know that title.
Okay.
At least what I'm going to call it. Now, and Tina obviously knows this, but if you're with a really big publisher, they will sometimes change your title. So most authors just call it their working title because it might get changed.
Yeah.
Along with any idea that you have for the cover. Now, I was able to keep the titles I wanted from my first two books. The publisher wasn't thrilled because they were long, so they were hard for them to, fit on the book. Like, could you come up with shorter titles? And you look at, they did a great job, but
they did great. Yeah,
they were long titles. So now with my third book, it's a different publisher. It's Red Adept Publishing, and I wasn't sure if she would keep After Perfect, but she is, as far as I know. So
when I wrote my first book, Reckless Beginnings, I did not have a title for it. I didn't want it at all. I knew what the story, of course, it's based on me. I knew the subject matter. I knew where the title was going. The book was going. But once the book was finished, then I had to think of a title. But the other ones after that, I had titles for before I wrote. But I think because it's my debut, I'm like, I have no idea how to title a book. I'll write it first and then figure it out.
Well, and a lot of other authors were telling me, don't worry about what you call it because they're going to probably change it anyway. So I really didn't expect to be able to keep my
Oh,
title.
that's good you did. That's great. And then I got this series I want to finish up now. I have 2 more books to write on that. And then I want to start my new series in January of next year. That's what I'm shooting for, is to get my second series completely finished by December. We'll see. And then start a brand new series in January. And I kind of know the titles and where it's going, but that's all I'm going to say. The readers will just have to wait. But we are getting up to the 6 o'clock hour. Okay, we got a question here from Denise that I do want you to answer before we talk about the giveaway. And Diana's here. Hey, Diana, good to see you. This is the question from Denise. What is the most surprising thing you discovered by writing your books?
I think probably what we were just talking about, that, you know, before I started writing, if somebody would have told me, well, when you write, your characters are going to surprise you.
Yeah.
I would have thought, how can they surprise you? You're the one creating the characters.
It happens. And this conversation comes up all the time on these chats.
But you sound like you're off your rocker when you say that. And
but it's true. And you don't really, you can't really express it enough unless you actually sit down to write a book, and then it happens. And I can guarantee that it will happen. Because I know an author that has not happened to.
And the same with their names. Like here's a little trivia. For our first book, I had, well, at that time we had 15 grandkids, and my 2 daughters were pregnant right when I was working on edits. And I'm like, you have to have those babies because I got to put their names. One of them didn't know if she was having a boy or a girl. Well, they were born while I was working on the final edits, so I was able to fit them in. But none of them are main characters. So 15 of our grandkids are mentioned as minor characters in the first book. So then now in the third book, baby Sylvie, the only one that wasn't in the first book, I changed minor character in book 3 so that she's in there. But as far as, like, I could never have changed a main character's name, because to me they're Lily, they're Luke, they're Peyton, they're Daniel. So it had to be a minor character, because once you know them, that's their name. You can't
and the name kind of goes with the person. I mean, I put into a lot of thought when I name my characters. I have to have a name that, depending on where they're from, I will look up, common names in certain areas of the state or the country. Or in the Sabella series, she's Portuguese. So I looked up some names with Portuguese descent and came up with Sabella because I liked it. But a lot of thought goes behind the name of a character. That name has to fit that personality, where they're from,
their age.
Yeah.
In their 60s, there's going to be a Susan, Linda.
Yeah. A lot of thought goes into it. I mean, and sometimes, I'll be writing a book and I can just tell when the name's not right, because it doesn't feel right when I'm writing their scene. And I'll keep using it. I'll put X's, X, 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 until I can tell when it doesn't fit. But I could chat to you for another hour. I really would love to, but these times go by so quick. But I do want you to just talk about your giveaway, and when you want to announce it, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. And will I be able to read these comments afterwards?
Yes, they will.
Okay. Because I feel bad I'm not answering some.
I know they go by so quick, and I mentioned to the authors, go into the group and my author page.
Okay.
I think that depending on where the readers are watching, that's where the comments are going to show. So you can find different comments and questions in the group and different ones in the author page.
Okay.
And also, I wanted to mention to you any links that you want to share.
Yes.
In the comments. We can put them in the comments so people can find you easy.
Oh, let's see if I can. So this is, look for my third book, but I have
you're on Instagram, Facebook. Drop those links in the comments and people can just click on that and then follow you.
So as far as because this was around Valentine's Day, well, the day after, the giveaway is for two different winners. Each will win an ebook of Crazy Little Town Called Love.
Nice.
So what I'm just asking people to do is to follow me in, like, if you're in BookBub, or follow me on Amazon or my author Facebook page, because all my information is on there, and then that way you will hear about
new release,
my third book and fourth book. And
yeah, put the link in the comments, and then people can just click on it. Just leave it as a comment, and then they can click on it and follow you.
Okay, and then tomorrow morning, like I told Tina, I'll pick the winners and they'll be posted in there. And then all I'll need from you is your email address, and then I can gift you the ebook.
Perfect. Well, I really had a lot of fun talking to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody that showed up. This was really nice.
Thank you, everybody, and I'm looking forward to picking up your books and checking them out.
All right.
We have to do this again when your next book comes out.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you soon.